FBI Director Marcus Reynolds had spent the last 14 hours buried under intelligence briefings, classified reports, and back-to-back calls with the Attorney General. His body ached from sitting too long, and his mind buzzed with exhaustion. So when he finally pulled into Harrison's Gas and Go, an upscale station in a quiet suburban area, all he wanted was to fill up his tank, grab a coffee, and go home. The night air was crisp, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly as he stepped out of his sleek black Mercedes-Benz S-Class. He barely noticed the patrol car slowing down nearby, at first. Then came the feeling, that familiar, sinking sensation in his gut, the unspoken tension, the slow, creeping weight of being watched. Inside the squad car, Officer Derek Mills sat up straighter in the driver's seat, his eyes narrowing as he observed Marcus swiping his credit card at the pump. "Check this out," Mills muttered, nudging his partner, Officer Blake Carter. Carter, still scrolling on his phone, barely looked up. "What?" Mills jerked his chin toward Marcus. "Black guy, expensive ride, dressed too sharp for this area." Carter finally glanced up. "So what?" Mills scoffed. "So what? Look at him. Brand new Benz, fresh suit, like he owns the place. You tell me, does he look like he lives around here?" Carter sighed, rubbing his temple. "Derek, man, you ever think maybe he's just a dude with a nice car?" Mills wasn't listening. His instincts told him something was off. Maybe the car was stolen. Maybe the guy was here to meet someone shady. Either way, he had a bad feeling. And when Derek Mills got a bad feeling, he acted on it. Marcus, meanwhile, had already sensed the shift in energy. He knew the playbook. Nothing sudden, no quick movements. Keep it calm, professional, controlled. He replaced the gas pump, tightened the cap, and started toward the convenience store. Behind him, he heard it, the unmistakable click of a police car door opening. He inhaled deeply. "Here we go." A voice rang out, sharp and commanding. "Hey, hold up a second." Marcus paused, but didn't turn around immediately. He took a measured breath, squared his shoulders, and turned slowly, making sure his hands were visible. Officer Mills was already approaching, his posture stiff with authority. His right hand hovered near his holster, not quite gripping it, but close enough to send a message. "Something wrong, officer?" Marcus asked, his tone level. Mills tilted his head slightly, as if sizing him up. "What are you doing here tonight?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Getting gas, same as everyone else." Carter had stepped out of the squad car now, lingering near the door, watching the exchange unfold. Mills crossed his arms. "This your car?" Marcus exhaled through his nose, already feeling the familiar frustration bubble beneath his calm exterior. "Yes, it is." Mills nodded slowly, unconvinced. "Mind showing me some ID?" Marcus let the silence stretch just a second longer than necessary, watching Mills's expression, watching the gears turn. Then, without a word, he reached into his coat pocket, slowly, deliberately, the way black men are taught to move around cops, and pulled out his FBI credentials. The gold badge gleamed under the station's fluorescent lights as he flipped open the leather case, revealing his title, rank, and authority. FBI Director Marcus Reynolds. Mills's smirk vanished. Carter, still by the car, visibly stiffened. "And Marcus?" Marcus just watched them, waiting. Officer Derek Mills didn't back down. If anything, he doubled down, still wearing that smug little smirk like he had something to prove. "Just checking if you're lost," he said, his voice dripping with mock concern. Marcus Reynolds didn't blink. He'd been in counterterrorism briefings with the president, sat across from cartel leaders, and negotiated hostage releases in war zones. This wasn't even a challenge. He tucked his badge back into his jacket with a deliberate slowness. His dark eyes locked onto Mills, studying the officer the way a predator sizes up prey. "That's interesting," Marcus said, tilting his head slightly. "Because last I checked, stopping for gas isn't a crime." Mills crossed his arms, posturing, trying to keep control of the situation. "It's a routine check." "A routine check," Marcus repeated, his tone flat. "For what?" Mills shrugged. "Suspicious activity." Carter, the other officer, shifted uncomfortably. He was starting to realize this wasn't a good look. But Mills was already too far in. "Suspicious how?" Marcus asked, voice calm but sharp as a razor. Mills scoffed. "Look, man, I don't know you. You roll up in a $100,000 car, dressed like you just left a board meeting?" "I did," Marcus cut in smoothly. "A meeting with the Attorney General." Mills hesitated for half a second before pushing forward. "All I'm saying is this ain't exactly the kind of neighborhood where—" Marcus's eyebrows lifted. "Where what? Where I belong." Silence. For the first time, Mills seemed to realize he'd walked straight into a minefield. But he still wasn't willing to admit he'd made a mistake. Instead, he gestured to the squad car. "Just show us your license, then we'll be out of your hair." Marcus exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of this moment. He could already see how this would play out. If he refused, they'd escalate. If he complied, they'd act like they'd done him a favor. And deep down, Marcus knew, if he were anyone else, this could have gone a whole lot worse. So he didn't reach for his wallet. He folded his arms across his chest and said, voice cold and unshakable, "You sure you want to go down this road?" Marcus had dealt with men like Mills before. Men who mistook their badge for a crown. Who saw power as a weapon, not a responsibility. But this was different. Mills wasn't just profiling him. Mills was looking for a fight. Marcus kept his posture steady, even as the tension thickened in the air. His instincts screamed at him. Years of experience had taught him when a situation was about to spiral. Still, he played it by the book. He moved deliberately, slowly. No sudden motions. Nothing to give them an excuse. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his leather ID holder, flipping it open with practiced ease. A gleaming gold badge, his credentials crystal clear. Director Marcus Reynolds, FBI. His voice was calm, measured. Mills snatched the ID from his hand, barely sparing it a glance before scoffing. "FBI, huh?" His lip curled. "That's cute." He turned the badge over in his fingers, tapping it against his palm like he was waiting for it to disintegrate. The other officers shifted uneasily, but no one spoke up. Then, without warning, the slap came. A sharp crack split the air as Mills' open palm struck Marcus across the face. The impact rocked Marcus's head to the side, his jaw flaring with pain. A red-hot sting spread across his cheek, the taste of blood blooming in his mouth where his teeth caught the inside of his lip. The gas station fell deathly silent. Even Officer Carter, who had stood confidently beside Mills, took an uneasy step backward, his face paling. A woman near the pumps gasped audibly, clutching her purse. A father pumping gas froze, his eyes darting toward his young son sitting in the backseat of their SUV. But Mills grinned. The kind of grin Marcus had seen too many times. The kind of grin that meant, yeah, I did that, and what? "Now," Mills sneered, his voice thick with condescension. "Show me some real credentials." Marcus slowly turned his head back toward him. His breath was controlled, even, but his fingers? His fingers curled into fists. For a moment, there was only silence. Mills's smug expression faltered, just for a fraction of a second. A flicker of doubt, of uncertainty. But arrogance is a stubborn thing. He chuckled, shaking his head as if Marcus had just told him a bad joke. "FBI director?" Mills scoffed. "Yeah, right." Marcus didn't flinch, didn't blink. He slowly straightened his posture, towering just a bit taller, rolling his shoulders like he was shaking off the slap. Every move deliberate, controlled, dangerous. The weight of the moment started to shift. The other officers, the ones who had stood idly by, weren't smirking anymore. One of them, a younger cop with nervous eyes, took a half-step forward. Sir, maybe we should—" Mills cut him off with a glare. But Marcus saw it now. The hesitation, the cracks. They were realizing something. Something was wrong. The energy in the air changed, sharp as a blade. Marcus reached into his coat pocket. The officers tensed, hands twitching toward their holsters, as if they actually thought he was reaching for a weapon. They had no idea. What he pulled out wasn't a gun. It was a badge. His badge, FBI director, the highest-ranking federal law enforcement official in the country. He held it up between two fingers, his voice like ice cutting through steel. "I am your FBI director. And you just assaulted a federal officer." The gas station stood still. The weight of his words hit like a sledgehammer. One officer actually stumbled back. Another's mouth opened and closed as if his brain couldn't process what was happening. Even Mills, the bulldog himself, didn't have a comeback. Because he knew. They all knew. They had just made the biggest mistake of their careers. Mills's face went ghost white. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His cocky bravado had drained from him like water, leaking through a cracked dam. The other officers exchanged nervous glances, shifting on their feet. Some looked at Mills. Others looked at Marcus. None of them seemed to know what to do next. Marcus, however, had no hesitation. One call, that's all it took. He lifted his phone to his ear, his voice calm, controlled, deadly. I need a team at my location, now. No shouting, no dramatics. Just power. The kind that didn't need to be screamed to be felt. Mills swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. Hey, he started, forcing a weak laugh. Let's not blow this out of proportion, all right? Just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Marcus raised an eyebrow, slipping his phone back into his pocket. Did this man really think he could talk his way out of this? A low, tense silence hung over them. Then, engines, tires, movement. Bright headlights sliced through the dim evening light as unmarked SUVs rolled into the gas station, surrounding the officers like predators circling prey. Doors swung open. Federal agents, black tactical gear, bulletproof vests. The kind of men and women who walked with a purpose. The kind who didn't hesitate. Mills and his officers stood frozen. One of them let out a shaky breath. Another shifted back, almost instinctively, like a cornered animal. For the first time that night, they weren't in control. Marcus crossed his arms, taking in the sight of them, squirming, panicking, and for the first time he smiled. Because now they were going to learn exactly what it felt like to be powerless. The gas station, once just another quiet stop along the highway, had transformed into a war zone of authority. SUV doors slammed shut, boots hit pavement. The FBI agents moved with sharp precision, their expressions unreadable, their presence commanding and cold. Officer Mills and his men stood stiff, their previous arrogance replaced by something else. Pure, unfiltered fear. Then a new presence stepped forward. Agent Samantha Diaz, second in command, sharp, calculated, ruthless when necessary. Her tactical vest bore the FBI insignia, but she didn't need it to assert her dominance. Her presence alone was enough. She walked straight up to Marcus, her voice level, professional, unshaken. Are these the men? Marcus didn't hesitate. He turned, scanning the officers, Mills, still pale and stiff. The others trying to shrink into the background, as if that would save them. His eyes locked on Diaz, a single nod. That was all she needed. She pivoted toward the officers, her tone shifting, hard, uncompromising, final. You're all under federal investigation. The words slammed into them like a physical blow. One officer, a younger man, flinched, eyes darting to Mills. Wait, what? Diaz didn't even acknowledge him. Her focus stayed sharp, her voice cold enough to cut. Put your weapons on the ground, now! Mills's hands twitched. He wasn't reaching for his gun. Not exactly. More like instinctively checking if he still had the power to fight this. He didn't. Marcus watched as reality sank into them. The slow, sinking dread of knowing they'd lost. Completely. One by one, the officers complied. Holsters unbuckled. Guns hit the pavement. Authority shifted. For years, they had controlled the narrative. Not anymore. Mills's face drains of color so fast he might as well be a ghost. His mouth opens, but no real words come out. Just a stuttering mess of half-formed excuses. This is a misunderstanding. His voice cracks, weak and desperate, like he actually thinks that'll fix anything. His hands twitch at his sides, caught between wanting to gesture, to plead, and knowing damn well he has no ground to stand on. The man looks like a fish flopping on dry land, gasping for something that just isn't there. The other officers? Oh, they're done. Not a word, not a move, just this awkward, silent retreat. They don't even try to back him up. The same guys who were puffed up and fearless not even 20 minutes ago are now stepping away like he's got the plague. None of them want to go down with him. They just stand there, stiff and quiet, looking anywhere but at Mills. Like, if they avoid eye contact long enough, maybe they'll just disappear from the whole situation. Their badges feel a lot heavier now, their belts sagging with the weight of what's about to come. Then, like the final nail in the coffin, a voice cuts through the tension. Roll the footage! And there it is, up on the screen, crystal clear. The gas station surveillance footage. The room watches as Mills and his boys roll up on the guy they thought was just another nobody. The smug walk, the arrogance, the complete disregard for anything remotely resembling protocol. And then, wham, the unprovoked slap, the sheer audacity of it, the laughter afterward, the power trip, the way they practically ooze entitlement. The air in the room turns thick and suffocating. No one breathes. No one moves. Mills's mouth opens again, like maybe, just maybe, he can still talk his way out of this. But there's nothing. No lie slick enough, no excuse strong enough. The tape doesn't just show what happened, it shows who he is. And now? Now the whole damn room knows it too. His career isn't just on the line, it's already in the trash. One by one, the officers are forced against walls, car hoods, or whatever solid surface is closest. Their arms are yanked behind their backs, and the sharp click of handcuffs fills the air like a grim drumbeat. The FBI agents work with quiet efficiency. No hesitation, no wasted movement. This isn't personal. This is just another job. Another takedown. Another batch of corrupt cops getting exactly what they deserve. Mills, he's losing his mind. As soon as an agent grabs his wrist, he jerks away violently, eyes wide with disbelief. "You can't do this! I'm a police sergeant!" His voice is raw, shaking, spitting out words like they're supposed to mean something. Like the title he's been abusing is supposed to protect him. But it doesn't. Not today. The agent holding him doesn't even flinch. No reaction, no sympathy, nothing. Just an iron grip and a hard shove forward, bending Mills at the waist as the cuffs snap on. Mills thrashes like a madman, face burning with humiliation, muscles straining against the restraint. But the more he fights, the tighter they hold him. He's not in charge anymore. He's not calling the shots, and that realization settles on him like a crushing weight. Meanwhile, the other officers? They don't even try to fight. They just stand there, stiff as statues, faces pale as they're methodically cuffed and read their rights. Not a single one dares to speak. The same guys who just an hour ago were puffing out their chests, acting like they owned the city, are now standing in silent defeat. They know this is over. They know there's no talking their way out of this one. Mills, still kicking and screaming, twists his neck to glare at his squad. "Are you seriously just gonna stand there and let this happen?" His voice cracks, teetering between rage and desperation. He's drowning, and he knows it. And worst of all, the people he thought had his back aren't even throwing him a lifeline. Not one of them answers. Not one of them moves. They keep their heads down, eyes locked on the ground like, maybe, just maybe, if they pretend hard enough, this isn't really happening. And then, a new voice slices through the tension. Marcus steps forward, hands in his pockets, watching the scene unfold like it's a movie he's already seen 100 times. He tilts his head slightly, his expression unreadable, and then, finally, he speaks. "You're about to learn what real accountability looks like." His voice is calm, too calm. No yelling, no theatrics, just a cold, undeniable truth wrapped in 6 simple words. And just like that, Mills stops fighting. His breath shudders. His shoulders sag. For the first time, real fear flickers in his eyes. Because deep down, past all the arrogance and bravado, he finally understands. He's not getting out of this one. By the time the sun cracked over the skyline, the story had already broken the internet. Every major news outlet was blasting the footage. A courtroom, a slap, a judge with ice in her veins, and a corrupt squad crumbling like stale bread. Twitter, TikTok, the morning news. It was chaos. Comment sections were on fire. Hashtags trending faster than anyone could keep up. Higher justice for Reina. Had the system cracked and blew all down. Folks were mad, loud, and finally paying attention. It wasn't just about some officer losing his cool. It was the mask slipping off a whole damn machine. The Fulton PD was in shambles, scrambling like kids who just broke the lamp and knew mom was 5 steps from the door. Their press release was a joke. 4 sentences of corporate fluff that basically said, "We're investigating internally," like that ever meant something. No names, no accountability, just some deputy chief squinting into cameras like he didn't just get blindsided by receipts. The public didn't buy it, not this time. People wanted blood. And Reina? She wasn't even sweating. She was already 5 moves ahead, flanked by marshals and lawyers, eyes sharper than ever. Meanwhile, Marcus Langston, U.S. Attorney, proud wearer of 2 tight suits and a moral compass that didn't waver, was building a case like a man possessed. He was the type to smile politely while loading the legal equivalent of a bazooka. Mills Denton, Trask, all of them were on the board. And the word federal hit different when it came from Marcus's mouth. Obstruction, civil rights violations, conspiracy, abuse of power. It was a buffet of charges, and he was serving them hot. Every document was time-stamped, every witness locked in, and every dirty thread pulled until the whole quilt of corruption started to unravel in public. In the station, Mills was quiet. Not scared, not yet, but quiet like a man hearing the walls talk. His desk had already been cleared for protocol, and the whispers behind his back were louder than gunshots. Trask was losing it, pacing like a caged dog, demanding union reps and calling in favors that didn't pick up anymore. Denton? Kid looked like he aged 10 years in 2 days, wide-eyed and shaky, realizing he'd hitched his badge to a sinking ship. Cameras followed every move now, and none of them knew how to fake clean anymore. Raina sat in her office, scrolling through messages, calls, updates, her phone buzzing like a live wire. Her nephew's face was still on her desk, smiling back at her in a school photo. That was her why, not revenge, not ego, just a promise that this time the cycle didn't spin unnoticed. Carter stepped in, dropped another folder on her desk, his face tight. "They're trying to pin some of it on the DA now," he said. "Good," she replied, without even blinking. Let them all burn if they knew. Because this wasn't about winning anymore. It was about cleansing, about shaking a city that had slept too long under the weight of silence. The system was leaking and breaking, and finally, somebody gave a damn. Turns out, when you slap a federal judge in front of cameras, mics, and half the damn city, the law hits back with a steel bat. Mills, Trask, Denton, they weren't just suspects anymore. They were defendants in matching suits, sitting stiff at a federal courthouse, blinking under fluorescent lights like deer caught mid-crime. The charges hit like bricks: assault on a federal official, obstruction of justice, civil rights violations, abuse of authority. Each count sounded like a gavel to the face. Their lawyers tried spinning narratives, stress, confusion, mistaken identity, but the footage didn't lie, and neither did the bruised legacy of a system that had protected them for years. The moment those charges dropped, the internet went full inferno again. Civil rights groups lit up the airwaves, hashtags doubled in speed, and even the late-night hosts couldn't crack jokes fast enough. Every panel, every news desk, every podcast with a mic started dissecting the same truth. This wasn't just about a slap. It was about what made that slap feel okay to those officers in the first place. And suddenly, everybody wanted to talk about racial profiling, systemic bias, the badge as a weapon instead of a shield. Politicians got real quiet or real performative, depending on how close their re-election was. But the people were wide awake now. Raina Cole didn't say much publicly. She didn't have to. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. While the world talked, she moved pieces. And while the department fumbled their PR campaign, Marcus Langston was out here giving masterclasses in, "You thought you were untouchable, but surprise, here's your indictment." He hit every angle, every blind spot they'd hidden behind for years. Internal memos, deleted texts, suspiciously timed promotions. It all came tumbling out. The courtroom was his arena, and he was throwing haymakers dressed in legal briefs. No backdoor deals, no shield of blue brotherhood, just consequences served federal, behind closed doors. The cops who used to walk with a strut now sat with their heads down. The same system they'd twisted for so long now had them in a chokehold, and every plea deal Marcus rejected was another reminder. Not this time. Trask finally cracked first. Spilled enough names to keep 2 grand juries busy for months. Denton followed soon after. Less loyal, more scared. Mills held out longer, clinging to pride like it would save him. But in the end, even he realized that power don't mean squat when you're wearing orange. And through it all, Raina watched. She didn't gloat, she didn't celebrate. Because this wasn't a game. It was grief. Grief for every kid profiled, every family silenced, every case buried because someone wore a badge and thought that made them a god. She stood in her chambers, staring out the window at a city still buzzing, still bleeding, still healing. And when Carter asked her, was it worth it? She didn't answer right away. She just said, "Ask me again when the next officer thinks twice before putting hands on someone who looks like me." Because this wasn't revenge. It was a reset. And power? Real power is knowing how to use it without becoming the monster you fought to defeat.